if we think about cultures over the years have so often been defined and created within a workplace scenario. And yes, we've had hot desking, and yes, we've had remote working before, but since beginning of 2020, it has been like someone's put an accelerator down, and all of a sudden, the actual challenge for a lot of businesses is, how do we actually work remotely? How do we actually work in a hybrid world? So often in the last period of time, businesses have put a huge amount of focus on how to increase efficiency and productivity in a hybrid world. And they have touched on culture and tried to keep connections going, but really, have they put the focus on it that it actually deserves? We've put focus on policies, systems, and processes. The tech industry has boomed. However, where Sara and I would like to focus is on the human factors. You know, if you look at any organization and you go to the staff and you ask them how much time are they going to be working remotely, how much time in the office, and what about a hybrid or a flexibility of both? And in a lot of organizations, the feedback on that is around 80 to 90% of people are saying that their preference is to work hybrid. So our challenge as leaders and businesses is to actually find out, how do we put a spotlight on culture to make sure, now that it's a lot more complex than it ever has before, that we actually get that sense of belonging, that we actually create those connections, and we increase the performance and the psychological human factor to make sure that we actually get those all locked in. So welcome to this series. This series is all about making sure that we lead authentically in a hybrid world. Sara and my 4-part process kicks off with planning. It's making sure that we've got a plan in place to create robust cultures in a hybrid world. Second stage is all around about getting clarity, making sure that everybody is on exactly the same page. The third step is all around making sure we're building those really strong connections. And the fourth step is all about enriching those. So 4-step process we're going to take you through in the next 4-part series, and that is plan, clarify, connect, and enrich. So I hope you enjoy our series. It's all about building robust cultures in a hybrid world.
And one of the first things to clarify is actually, what is a hybrid environment? Because lots of people have quite different perspectives on what that looks like. And when we're talking about that hybrid workplace, we mean that we've got a combination going on. So you might have some people that are fully remote. You might have some people that are still fully in the office, or you might have some people that do a mixture of working from home, so they're in that remote space, as well as spending some of their time in the office. And more we are seeing, depending on the workplace, that we've got all 3 of those types of environments happening in one place. And so many leaders have been managing remote teams for some time, or even a mix. But actually now we've got this fully hybrid environment happening in many businesses. It's actually just more about making sure we're keeping people who live just down the road as connected to those teams as they always have done when they were working directly in those offices, or in the office, I should say. And so my question is, as leaders, how are we cultivating our culture when our working environment is constantly changing? And we've seen recently that organisations are certainly spending more time focusing on their culture, which is wonderful. But Kirsten and I like to just make sure that first and foremost, we're putting together a culture strategy that's making sure it's taking into that hybrid environment factors. Because often when we've been looking at what culture looks like in our organisation, it's been focused on our historical way of working and not our present and potentially future way of working. And our teams are wanting and pretty much expecting these flexible ways of working to continue for work-life fulfillment, and to make sure that they're able to get the best from their situation. And so we really want to make sure that the businesses are thriving by creating their culture that's going to work for the hybrid environment, which of course, yes, means that bottom line piece is still going to be following through. So what we need to do is we need to make sure, as we're shifting into that hybrid space, or you might already be in it, but we're always reconnecting with our purpose. That's at a business level, at a team level, and at a personal level. People still want to know that what they're doing has meaning, and what they're doing is meaningful, both to themselves and also to whoever their end customer is. And also reviewing that shared purpose. Again, it's keeping that vision alive. And when I spoke about meaning, it's that connection that what I'm doing is helping drive the vision of the business forward, and it's helping make a difference. We also just need to make sure we've got our collaboration involvement processes really bedded down. And we will be talking about this later on in our Connect series or episode, but making sure we do have the right types of collaboration and involvement in place is absolutely paramount when we're thinking about that hybrid culture. And last but most definitely not least, is around celebration. Making sure we're keeping track of those milestones and achievements, big, small, or otherwise. And I'm a big fan of hunting the small, but making sure that celebration is a key component of what our culture strategy is actually looking like. So our action for you is actually take a look at your culture strategy and make sure it's not just focused in one direction, but it actually encompasses the hybrid environment.
And that's the key, isn't it, Sarah? It's actually making sure that we are more deliberate and that we're now more intentional in regard to spotlighting culture in a hybrid world. So it's not about just picking up our culture strategy and doing some minor little tiny tweaks. It's actually being really intentional and putting a really good focus on it. And what we are seeing is organizations that are putting increased effort and focus into their culture strategy and really overlaying, well, how does that actually work in a hybrid world, are seeing a lot of different results. They're seeing the business results, they're seeing better retention, better attraction techniques. And for us, it's about making sure that people are feeling more looked after. They've got that sense of belonging. So what I would like to focus on is what could we actually become really focused on? And so here's 5 key tips. The first one is around making sure that we actually have got that adaptability, that we've got that focus, that we're making sure that we've got the flex involved, so that as requirements do change and needs and requests are received, that we've actually got that flexibility and also the appetite to have those conversations and be more adaptable and flexible. So there's the first one. The second one is making sure that we increase visibility. Now that may seem quite random, because a lot of the times now, whether we're a hybrid or not, people are having a lot of Zoom conversations or virtual conversations. The problem with that is quite often that is work focus, right? So it's all around people getting fatigue in that space. But what we're meaning by visibility is because in normal workplaces, in office, people have got proximity. And in a hybrid world, the people that are working in office still get that proximity. They still get that sense of belonging. But being in hybrid, you're going to have some people working from home or a combination of both. So what we need to do is make sure that you focus on what is your strategy around making sure that there is that proximity, that sense of belonging focused on it in your strategy as well. The third part is inclusivity, is how do we actually get people really involved? How do we get people collaborating more in our hybrid world? Because otherwise what happens, you're walking around the office and people are chatting, but now you've got people missing out maybe, at home or coming in only a couple of days a week. So how do you actually make sure that which is the fourth part, how do you make sure those communication structures are in place to enable you to actually capture that knowledge, to actually enable that true sharing of knowledge so nobody misses out? And then the last one is how do we actually create and maintain accountability and ownership? How do we make sure people are clear on what is required and are really accountable in that space, whether we're leaders, we're team members, or we're executives? So my action for today is all around making sure that you go to your team and do a collaboration exercise and get them to analyze, what's working for them in the culture at the moment, where are their challenges, where are their hurdles, and then as a team work out 5 areas, 5 things that they could do in the next month to make sure that they strengthen that hybrid culture.
So we know businesses need to focus on building a robust culture that's got that hybrid factor involved with it. And organisations that do prioritise building, sustaining and supporting culture with a hybrid focus are more likely to thrive. And so the 4 areas we're covering off is around planning, clarification, connection and enrichment. Creating and maintaining a company culture just isn't easy in the hybrid world. And this is why Kirsten and I have pulled together this 4-part series so we can share some practical actions with you that you can implement into your business. We've hoped you enjoyed our first episode all around planning, and we look forward to bringing you the next one.